Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 37 as we continue our look at England's awesome foursome in the second row. And today we're looking at Joe Launchpad Launchbury. You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining us once again. Quick bit of admin before we get started. If you haven't had a chance to listen yet, check out episode 36. That was our last episode. We're doing a special Saturday series at the moment following the Women's Rugby World Cup and of course the Red Roses, as our girls are known. And we're looking to get to know a bit more about them as they attempt to defend the title from 3 years ago. They've already beaten Spain and Italy, so they're off to a pretty good start. And they've got the USA this afternoon. So if you get a chance, check it out. I think it's on ITV, or one of the ITV channels at least, 2:30, something like that. Obviously, coverage of the Italy game and today's game will be in our next episode on Saturday. So do check that out as well. For today, continuing with our look at England's awesome foursome in the second row, we've covered George Cruz. We've covered Courtney Big Goose Laws, but it has been a busy week. I've not had a chance to do the research. So this one is in the hands of my ever-present co-host, Dan. Hello, mate. Who have you got for us today?
Hello, mate. Today we have launchers, or I think people can probably crack the code there. Joseph Oliver Launchbury will be our man of the hour today. Actually, I'll crack on with just a few sort of stats, and then perhaps we can have a sort of wider chat about him.
Sounds good.
So Joseph Oliver Launchbury, born 12th of April 1991, which makes him 26 now and 28 come 2019 World Cup in Japan. He's 6'6" and 122 kilograms, 19 stone 2. That seemed heavy to me.
He's a big boy though, isn't he? I mean, I guess
he is a big boy, yeah.
Bit tree trunkish.
Yeah, I mean, he is
in a good way.
He carries it well. I didn't think he'd be that heavy actually. So, but I mean, he is there. He's obviously in the row as he's known, but he is also a blindside flanker and has actually played, and not just a blindside as in early rugby. I mean, he's played blindside for Wasps, and he played pretty much a season
I didn't know that.
at blindside for Wasps.
That's a big flanker.
Well, yeah, I mean, in fairness, quite a few of them are fairly big these days. I mean,
True.
You've got, James Haskell's not small himself, in fairness.
No, but he's normal height, isn't he? 6'2", 6'3", something like that.
Yeah, true.
True. But I suppose, Atoje and Big Goose both play back row as well as in the second row, so it's probably not, as you say, it's not uncommon. Yeah,
not at all. But he's pretty much predominantly second row now, and I don't think we'll be seeing any more of him at blindside just because of how good he is in the row, really.
Yeah.
So his partner a couple of years ago, Mallory Bourne. Hopefully that's still the case. They have a baby daughter, Blythe. He was born in Exeter. And he went to school at Christ Hospital in West Sussex, or Horsham, West Sussex.
Yeah, another one from down your way.
Yeah, why Exeter to West Sussex? I'm not sure, but Christ Hospital's a pretty good school. They've produced previous rugby players as well, including Andy Higgins, who played for Bath for a while.
Yeah.
Played against him at school actually. The guy was awesome. He was an absolute machine.
It sounds like a lot of people who are born outside of Sussex who are very good at rugby, they come in, whereas the ones who tend to be born in Sussex not so good.
Nice. I see what you did there.
You cracked that code too. Well done.
Yeah. Well played.
A little slow off the mark.
But yeah, he's schooled there and he played some youth rugby at Horsham Rugby Club, and he joined the Harlequins Academy age 15, but failed to get a pro contract at age 18. Now, I remember last week
McQueen's, but that would explain why.
Yeah, last week when we talked about old Crusoe, he also failed to get a Quins contract. So I'm not sure what it is with Quins wanting to turn down world-class second row, but maybe they want to look at that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. but failing that, he went to Worthing Rugby Club for the 2009-2010 season, who at the time were National 2 South. But I know, I believe they went as high as Championship. So, they're, pretty useful club.
And considerably lower, I think, because my dad played for them back in the day.
Did he?
Yeah, but not. I'm pretty sure they weren't anywhere particularly high level at that point. So
no, not at all.
He was playing for them and the Nutborn Nobblers, so that might well, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I remember actually not that long ago when I was playing for East Grinstead, and Worthing weren't anything great then, but over the last probably 10, 15 years, they've got a few people in. They've put in a really good infrastructure, and they're playing pretty high level now. Yeah. Like I say, they went up to Championship. I think they're National 1 now.
Okay, that's still pretty useful, isn't it?
Yeah, oh God, yeah, it's still great rugby. But following a season there, the head coach at Worthing at the time, Will Green, who was an ex-Wasps player, recommended him to Wasps to go along. So he joined the Wasps Academy in 2010. Played a few A games for them, a few academy games. And in that time, he also had a spell training with the Eastern Province Kings in South Africa.
Oh, nice. I quite like it when we get a little bit of Southern Hemisphere exposure. People kind of didn't like it when Haskell went down to New Zealand, but I think it adds so much value. And we know that Jono did it, and he's a prime example of, how valuable it can be. I think both of us have read his autobiography, and he credits an awful lot of the experience that he has, and with what he learnt playing down under, or not down under, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. So looking at this, I don't know if he actually played for the Eastern Province Kings or just trained with them. I suspect he at least had some sort of A game academy equivalent matches.
Team,
but he trained there, and he was also sort of, because like I say, he was with Wasps from 2010, and he also spent a period on loan at Roslyn Park, which, as we know, is not at all unusual for these guys getting their sort of first contract. Should normally put on loan to a Championship National League side, just to get the game time. To date, he's got 109 Wasp caps, 10 tries for them. I say 10 tries, it says 50 points. I assume that must be 10 tries. I can't imagine him getting too many drop goals.
No, and I don't think they're going to call on him for the T duties either, but or at least not the kicking T duties.
Probably not. But he's so last season he was captain of Wasps, and as far as I'm aware, I think he's captain of Wasps again this year.
Oh, I thought Haskell was Wasps captain.
So I thought he was, but 2016-2017 season, no, Launchbury was the Wasps captain.
Okay, there you go. We're learning things already. That's why these episodes are so valuable.
Well, I hope so. Mate. So just to push on through, because I am pushing on through these stats just because I wanted to chat sort of more depth around him generally, but I'll carry on throwing the stats for a second. So looking at his international side, 2009, England under-18s, 2011, England under-20s, and 2012, he got his full England cap. And to date, he has 44 caps and 4 tries. Now, interestingly, his first cap was in the 2012 Autumn Internationals, which was against Fiji. And then he ended up playing all 4 matches in those Autumn Internationals, including that win over New Zealand, which I'm sure you remember.
I do. It was a bit special.
It was a bit special.
It was a bit more than just a win, wasn't it, if I remember rightly?
It was that's the sort of a recent reference to what Eddie Jones made about Manu taking apart the All Blacks. So in his first sort of setup with the England team and his starts, I mean, he'd been on tour with the England team before, but hadn't been capped. He was actually named Man of the Series.
Yes, I remember that. That was, and actually, because this wasn't the tour where he was called in as a replacement for Courtney Laws, who was injured. And of course, the one thing you don't want when you're injured is for your replacement to go and get man of the tour.
Yeah, exactly. And it was, but in your first 4 matches, get man of the series, that's
hell of an achievement.
Yeah, great going. And on the back of that, and that's something I wanted to bring up because I know we've brought this up a few times, but because it's specifically Launchbury, there's no way I'm letting it go this time. So in this Six Nations, of which, let's point out, England won and were champions, Launchbury got 2 man of the match performances, yet still no Lions call up.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. Well, look, we both... Part of why we're doing this little series is to decide what we think the England setup should look like, and that's a pretty tough call. Throw in the mix other nations as well, and it's a massive call. But I agree, you can't leave him out. He was too good. If you look at all of the second row across all of the Six Nations, all of the home nation sides, he's got to be in that mix, surely.
Well, he has to be. And most of the articles, so when I was researching this, pretty much 90% of the articles are basically saying, how was he not a Lion? How disgraceful it is he wasn't a Lion. And actually, one part which probably shows the man. So a few things I read amongst the England team. Apparently, him and Dan Cole allegedly are the 2 most popular players, as in they're
personalities.
Just loved amongst everyone. Yet when he wasn't named as a Lion, and everyone else is tweeting how disgraceful, the first tweet he sends is just to say, well done, Elliot Daly, his WASP person, well done, Elliot Daly, for making the Lions, with no reference to everything else, just showing that bit of class. Yeah. That bit of humbleness. And I give him a lot of respect for that. If that was me, I'd be like, Warren, you son of a bitch, what the hell do you know? Go fuck yourself. But I think Launchbury probably has a bit more class for me. So
a little bit.
just a bit. Just a bit.
Launchbury and everyone else.
And oh, no. So that's 2 for 2 so far, mate. Well done. But just looking at it as a whole and reading about it, so we've discussed this a lot over the last 2, because obviously we're talking the row at the moment, saying who do we want involved. Just reading his achievements, pretty much season on season, he's nominated as either England Player of the Year, WASP Player of the Year. Not nominated. He hasn't won it all the time, but he's nominated as one of the shortlists for it. He's got to be the most consistent England player we have.
Well, yeah, it's such a difficult one. There are 2 positions, and we need 4 people to fill them. But I agree. He is without question one of the most consistent England players that we have, and yet he's not guaranteed a place.
He's not, but that's due to and that's rightly so. That's due to the talent we have. That's not due to any sort of ridiculousness such as the Lions. So Joe Launchbury can be walking down the street, bump into Corey Hill, probably not even know who he is, and Corey Hill could be wearing his Lion stuff, and Launchbury not.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's pretty, and the more I read about it, the more I realised what an omission that was. However, we've exhausted this probably in the podcast as a whole, but looking to the future, so we've got to think about, like we're saying, I'm starting to wonder whether Joe Launchbury is a starter now, and just the more I read about him, the more I read about his consistency, I think I'd want him to start. I think I'd want him and good old Marrow to be starting the matches. If I'm picking it right now, I think they're the 2 I'd go for.
That's a big call. It's a big call. I don't disagree. I think Courtney Lawes then therefore becomes your bench, your replacement. But that leaves George Cruz out. But I think there are massive advantages, as we've already alluded to the fact that George Cruz and Maro Itoje play together week in, week out. It's a tough one. It is a tough one.
It's a tough. I mean, I think there's room for all 4 of them actually, because you've got Lawes and Itoje who both at international level have covered back row.
Yeah.
I think you can have all four in the squad. And I think you'd probably want them because it's because like we say, like awesome foursome, because they all are awesome.
Yeah, guys, listen. Just while we're talking about this, of course, this is the question that we're asking in every one of these episodes as part of this little series that we're doing. Get in touch with us and let us know what you think. We will put a little Twitter poll out at the end of this and just see what everyone thinks. But yeah, get in touch. Give us your thoughts and opinions because it'd be really interesting to hear what you think and if you agree with us or if you agree with Dan, if he happens to have a different opinion to me. I at the moment I'm still a bit undecided, but it's a tough call. So it'd be good to hear what you have to say about it. Sorry, Dan, carry on.
Yeah, no. Actually, I think that's a great point because it's interesting. So at the moment, I'm saying you've got Marrow and Launchbury starting. And if you don't have all four, I'm then saying Laws is on the bench and Cruz misses out. But I'd love to hear, and I definitely will be people who contradict that. And I'd love to hear that and sort of see your thinking behind it.
Cool.
Just looking at Launchbury as a man, he's quite. I say quiet man. I mean, I'm basing this upon sort of the media extent of it. He's not someone sort of seeking the limelight. He doesn't seem to put himself in any sort of situations. He's no Manu. He's not going to go jump off a ferry, get a cab into London, get smashed on your first England training session back for God knows how long. So
yeah. It's just digressing slightly and speaking about that. I was reading yesterday. So the kind of the general consensus is that it probably won't go any further, and it probably won't impact on his future England career. Obviously, we're yet to hear from Eddie Jones exactly whether or not he plans on taking any further action. But the general consensus is that being sent home was the punishment, and lessons should be learned from that, and he'll be back involved at the next opportunity. So fingers crossed that is the case, because obviously we'd love to see him involved. And I kind of think that when Eddie Jones says that Manu Tuilagi is someone who can take New Zealand apart, he's the kind of guy that's not going to want him to shoot himself in the foot and not involve someone who he thinks can take apart the best team in the world. So
why not just wait one day to go on the piss?
I know.
Like, why not just be like, do the training on Monday, then you and Denny get as loose as you need to get, but not the Sunday night, lads. Come on.
I think that what they were saying was that he's obviously been out injured for the best part of about 3 years. He's not been involved in the England setup under Eddie Jones, and
he has once because he came on, didn't he? He had in the 2016 he had a sub appearance in the Welsh match, and then he got injured again.
What I mean is he's not been involved in the kind of the where England has gone since Eddie Jones took over, and obviously Eddie Jones took over in that Six Nations. So that whole kind of the growth that they've had, the kind of the ethos that they've developed, he's not been involved in any of that. So yes, the rules were no drinking, but the kind of the general feeling is that because he hadn't been involved, because he wasn't fully aware of the kind of the importance of that ethos, that's where the mistake was made, and he admits it was a mistake. But that's why they think that it will be a slap on the wrist. Because it's kind of that opportunity to go, look, things have changed. You need to get on board with the way we do things now, and hopefully getting sent home is the kick up the arse that he needs to go. Okay, I need to change things. So we shall see.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm not sure how much I buy into that. I mean, don't get pissed before a full contact session with England. But I kind of get it. He's probably out of. Sort of habit of that just level of pure professionalism, that level of pure, pure expertise, and
the expectation, that kind of high expectation that exists now within the England setup. If you want to be involved, it's 110% all the time.
Yeah,
and I think for the guys that have been around for the best part of 2 years, or best part of a year and a half, or however long it's been now, that's kind of quite instilled in them now. Whereas perhaps with him, this was the sort of the little kick that he needed to just go, hang on a second, they're doing things a little differently now, and I need to kind of get in line. So hopefully he will. I mean, that remains to be seen. But we all know, including Eddie Jones, that he's a massively valuable part of the England setup when fit and healthy and firing. And it would be a real shame if of his own transgressions, he somehow prevents that from becoming a reality over the course of the next few years and leading up to the World Cup. So we shall see how that pans out. But sorry, I moved away from where you were talking about Big Joe.
Launchers,
that's it.
Or sorry. Launchpad.
Launchpad, that's better. If that's not an official one, let's make it one.
I just made that up myself. I'm taking full credit for it. With Launchpad, just saying he's just level of consistency. He's another one club man, which there's a lot in rugby, aren't there? Which is nice. As money comes more and more, I'm sure that's going to get less and less. But
the way things are going, maybe we need to just start talking about rugby players and multiple club men as the sort of the alternative.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is a good thing for England, isn't it? I mean, like you say, the money might have an impact on it. We might start to see more movement, but equally, you're building little pods of players. We've seen it work for certain teams, that have less options and less players to pick from. That often, there may be an individual who on paper is better, statistically is superior, but because they're involved with a different side, actually, Alan Wynne-Jones is a prime example for the Lions, isn't it? I mean, Warren Gatland knows him, but also picked him for factors outside of simply who was the best on paper. Because if he was choosing purely on form, there's no question Launchbury would have been there, and Alan Wynne-Jones wouldn't. And I know lots of people we've debated it till we're blue in the face, and lots of people disagree with us, but there's also plenty that agree. I think someone was chatting with you on Facebook, weren't they, and suggesting that Alan Wynne-Jones was the heart and soul of the Lions.
Well, it wasn't that. It was more a question around, isn't Alan Wynne-Jones a legend of the game? And it was absolutely he's a legend of the game. But you can't pick Lions based on legends of the game.
Otherwise, Jono and Johnny would have been there.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise you've got Jono in the row every time with Willie John McBride.
Exactly.
But, I'm not sure that would have been the most effective second row lineup.
Someone is calling me in the middle of a podcast recording, so we just need to...
It's probably Eddie.
It probably is Eddie. I did tell him we were recording, and I said I'm not available to take your call until at least...
He's a pushy sod, isn't he?
I know.
He's always doing that.
Anyway, he's gone now. He's gone to answer phone. You can leave a message. If it's interesting, I'll get back to him.
Nice, yeah. But, mate, have a word with him. Let him know.
I will.
So yeah, I mean, with regards to Launchbury, that's probably the sort of key factors covered from him as a player, him as a person. He's certainly put in his dues. He's such a workhorse, and it's quite interesting when you just look at sort of reviews on him and just sort of saying he really will. And one of the things that I found interesting, I can't remember who was saying this, is he plays very much that sort of Southern Hemisphere style, which is getting probably more and more in Northern Hemisphere now. But I remember people always used to say the Southern Hemisphere run until they're stopped, like try and run through a tackle, whereas the Northern Hemisphere run into a tackle.
And go to ground and give opportunities to the hoopers of the world to come in and steal the ball.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas Launchbury is known as somebody who will always just try and basically run until
pump the
he's
legs
stopped.
And keep going until force extra people in.
Yeah, be it a defence, a brick wall, whatever in front of him.
Just keeps on going. Like the Duracell bunny.
Yeah, I
not that I'm going to call him that. I think we'll stick with Launchpad.
Yeah, Duracell bunny seems a bit odd, but mate, each to their own. But so this season I think is a massive season for Launchbury. So I think if his performances stay, he could really take that spot for the 2019 World Cup. I think for him, Laws and Cruz, it's huge.
Do you know what? Just while we've been talking about it, and I've just been thinking, and I can't think of a game. I can't think of a time when he played badly for England. And that's not to say that I can pinpoint times when the others did, but Courtney Lawes hasn't always shone. I think with these guys, it's a case of are they brilliant or are they just good? But I don't remember a time even where when he was involved, Launchbury wasn't brilliant. He's always one of the guys that you're thinking, okay, man of the match time. Well, he's had a pretty good game. He's in the running, and half the times he's given it, and the other half the times he's not. But he was there or thereabouts. So maybe you got to look at that and say, George Cruz it's an unfortunate one because as we talked about when we covered him a few weeks back, he had injuries. He came back from injuries, went straight into the Lions. He didn't have bad games, but he had good games rather than great games, and as a result, he found himself being pushed out of the test side. But yeah, Launchbury, I can't really think of a time where you didn't think, he was one of the star players. And I'm sure if we went through, how all of these media outlets now, they do, they give every player a score out of 10 after the matches. I'm sure there aren't many games where Launchbury scored less than a 7 or an 8. Which is usually pretty solid.
Yeah, and I think that's it. His consistency, to me, is second to none. I mean, the only other England player I would say who's had that would be in an England top, Owen Farrell. I think we can say on the Lions tour, actually, Owen Farrell didn't necessarily have his strongest tour, although in the end, he's the one who kicked for goals that matters, and Owen Farrell on a bad day is still brilliant.
Billy Vunipola.
Billy, yeah, no, that's true. He's always been solid, but he's still had games where I think he'd be quiet. Whereas in the background, Launchbury, he's just always there, always working.
I think that's it, though, isn't it? Your Launchburys, your Billy Vunipolas, and as you say, your Owen Farrells, when they're not having epic games, they're still providing huge value. They're decent all the time. I mean, all these guys are obviously decent. They're international rugby players, but do you know what I mean? Like, I think they're probably the three, that you can't really do without. Actually, the more we talk about this, we came into this episode thinking, okay, here's just another one in a list of 4. We've kind of already, we haven't covered him yet. We've kind of already assumed that Maro Itoje is inked in, both for his ability playing at second row, but also I think we both agree that he's the future England captain whenever that happens. But yeah, it's the more we talk about it, the more I'm feeling I agree with you. And Launchbury surely has to be the other one. And it's unfortunate for George Cruz, but that's where I think I am as well. And I think Courtney Lawes is the replacement over George Cruz. If you're going to have an impact player to come on, that aggression you get with Big Goose.
Right now, I think that's the case, but we have to remember before Crusoe was injured, he was on like outstanding form, and he was just huge value to England. So
this is the problem that we have, Dan. This is the problem that we have,
mate. How good a problem!
I know,
is this?
It's awesome. It's awesome. I want to have this problem in every position. Well, I mean, I want to have this problem. I want Eddie Jones to have this problem in every position. But it's it's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if our opinions change as well, because as you say, massive season ahead. Obviously, what Eddie Jones does in the autumn, and we still don't know exactly how he's going to approach that. It's going to be very telling, perhaps, or not. If he decides to go with a really young side, it might not be very telling at all. But I think that Six Nations, that 2018 Six Nations, is when we're going to see a kind of a proper England first team in the eyes of Eddie Jones. It may be similar to what happens in the autumn, or it may be completely different. But I think that's when we can go, okay, this is now where we start to see what this team is likely to look like in next year in 2019. I think that will be when it happens. So yeah, autumn's going to be interesting. But he's got such a big decision to make here. I kind of feel like you can't leave them all out, because you've got decisions to make, and therefore you need to involve all, some if not all of them, in order to help make those decisions. But that's why this domestic season is going to be so key for I think all 4 of them. But mainly for the three that we probably are backing as our more outsiders, with Mara Toje probably already inked in.
Yeah, and we're giving Mara a lot of credit here, but I think he probably does definitely deserve it. But what are you thinking if you're a sort of Nick Asekwe, for example? You must be thinking, oh, for fuck's sake, like I've come through, I've done everything right, and now I've got these four in front of me. I've got no chance.
Nick Asekwe's what, about 12?
I think he's 13 in a couple of weeks. Yeah,
yeah. Obviously, he's not, guys. He's a bit older than that, but yeah, he's got a lot of playing time ahead of him. I think what he has to do, and this is what's so good about what's happening at the moment, is he has to look at it and go, my chance is going to come, but it's either going to come, unfortunately, out of because of injury, or hopefully for us as fans watching the game, it'll come because these guys will move on. And retire, and that will be that. So Nick Asekwe, you're probably looking at World Cup 2023. That's probably where he's going to come good, and he'll probably be 28, 26, 27, 28, something like that. I'm not sure exactly how old he is now.
Maybe even younger than that. And do you know what? We can't rule him out for 2019. He may.
No, he may turn out to be the next Mara Toje and becomes unstoppable, and suddenly we're saying that he's another one in the mix, and it changes everything again. But I don't think it's a problem. I think what we're seeing now under Eddie Jones that we perhaps haven't seen in the past is the fact the way that he's really using the young players.
Yeah,
in the past, the odd one sneaks through because they're just that good. But you don't see a lot of them involved at the sort of, on the fringes or on the bench or, in other ways. You don't really see them being used in the tours, generally speaking, except maybe in a Lions year. Whereas Eddie Jones is bringing these guys through now because he's giving them experience with probably very little intention of using them for the England team for now. But he's thinking long term, this England team can only last so long, and he wants to leave, whether Eddie Jones does stick around or not. He wants to leave a legacy. And I think that's great for England because, after they win the World Cup in 2019, there will undoubtedly be a few guys that will, be thinking about calling time on their careers. And at that point, you've got these guys coming through who are ready to take up that mantle and can kind of carry it on. So it's great for the future of England rugby.
Yeah, exactly. I saw Asekwe with the Curry brothers in McDonald's the other day getting given their party hats by Ronald, and they look excited about the future, about where it's going to go, because we've got so much young talent that can come through. A few of them inevitably probably will sneak into the 2019 squad, but a lot of them, like you say, are probably going to have to sort of bide their time a bit, build upon their future, and use this opportunity to learn of the launch pads, the Big Goose, the Crusoes, and really help develop their game, because they must get so much from that, just being able to play with these guys like Haskell got with Delalio, for example.
Well, exactly, and really anyone involved in that set. You had that 2003 squad. You had. I think it may have even been Haskell who was talking about it, and he just said it was totally intimidating being part of that squad, being surrounded by the Delalios, the Jonos, and all the other senior guys, the Richard Hills and so on. It was intimidating because he didn't really know who to talk to, and I think there was probably an element of a kind of what's the word I'm thinking of? The young guys,
hero worshipping.
Well, probably a little bit of that, but I mean, like the young guys and the older guys, they didn't really hang out together, and I don't know whether that's different now. But I think the experience of being around them, it was your Haskells, people like him, were just kind of in awe of being involved in a setup that was giving them that experience. And we know of James Haskell that while he can be a bit arrogant at times, and he's obviously a bit of a sort of a clown. And that's great, and it works for him. He's also, when it comes down to it, a very serious rugby player. He's very serious about his career and what he's doing, and he works hard. And experiences like that are going to be invaluable.
Yeah, he's So I think Haskell's smart because there's a lot of the time where sort of plays for, then you see he's always in absolutely brilliant shape. You never see him not give 100% on the pitch. So when he's like messing about doing his Twitter stuff and things, you're like, actually, that's quite funny. That's quite good. It's good for sort of him personally. It's probably good for England rugby a bit. But as soon as it comes to it, you know that guy, rugby comes first, and that's what matters.
Absolutely.
And I think these guys sort of seeing that, understanding that balance, probably at the moment don't follow Manu Tuolagi's lead with regards to getting that right. But if you look at the likes of the Joe Launchburys, of the James Haskells, or Chris Robshaws,
I think probably
it's going to be great.
Yeah, any of the guys that have been regularly involved over the last 18 months, and I'm sure we'll see a transformation in Manu Tuolagi as well. But he's been out of the fray for a while. But I think the guys that have been under Eddie Jones for a significant period of time now, they've got it right. They and I'm not sure that they're being coached in how to act. I think it feels like this is just something that's developing within the squad. He's created an environment that means that these guys want to be like this. They want to be super professional because they're all constantly fighting for their position, for the right to wear that shirt, and that's great. And it just makes them stronger, and it makes it even more exciting. What may or may not happen, or rather, what will happen in 2019.
Well, exactly, and I think now we can sort of say exciting. Don't forget later today, guys. It's 2:30. England women play USA for a place in the semi-finals. We win this, we've got our semi-final space booked. So I definitely recommend.
It's well worth a watch. It's well worth a watch. They've scored 100 points in their last two games. You will hear more about that on Saturday. But 100 points in their first two games, which is pretty exceptional. I was tweeted today, actually, last night about it, and I was asked, is it an unfair playing field? The fact that England are the only professional side, and of course it is. Of course it is. That doesn't change the fact that we still want them to do well. They shouldn't hold back because of it. And what it does is it sends a message to the rest of the world to say, look, you've got to invest in your women's sports teams, but in this case, your women's rugby teams, if you want to see the progression, if you want to see the success, because success costs investment of time and money and all the other things that enable you to become great. And whilst the Sevens circuit is going to continue to be professional on the women's side for England, so some of the girls who are obviously involved in the 15s will continue to be professionals, which is good. It's obviously a shame that it won't be for all of them, but I don't know. We'll see. With any luck, a success in this World Cup, successful retention of their cup will. Maybe sway that decision. I don't know how set in stone it is. I don't know if there's any hope whatsoever of that decision changing, or maybe it's one of those things where it'll be another 12 months before there's an opportunity to relook at it. But guys, check it out, follow them, support them, show some love. It's interesting. It's good rugby.
And definitely listen on Saturday to our pod about the the last couple of group matches for the England women. And just, from now, guys, thanks very much for listening. Please do continue to rate us on iTunes. It's really important for us, and we're really grateful, and we love interacting with sort of any messages we get. So please keep them coming.
Yeah, that's it, guys. Twitter @EnglandRugbyPod. Get in touch. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think about the awesome foursome. Who would forget trying to pick 3 out of the 4. Who would be your starting 2? We can worry about who's on the bench later. Who would be your starting 2 out of the 4? Or maybe you've got someone else in mind. But let us know. And if there's anything interesting, we can bring it up in our next Awesome Foursome episode. The last one where, of course, we're looking at Big Maro Itoje. We will see you. We'll see you. We'll certainly, you'll hear from us on Saturday. And then again for the Maro Itoje episode next week. So, as Dan says, thanks so much for listening, guys. Please continue to do so. Share us with your friends and your family and tell them how great we are if you think we are. If you don't think we are, apparently you can go on iTunes and rate us 5 stars. It means that you hate us. So do that. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.